but nicely, not in an impolite way, but I had to protect myself because certain things you can't, do anything about,
What happened to Michael?
Michael just became a very solitary figure. His treatment with the redress board, which is an absolute farce, because he became a very solitary figure, a very gifted man. And one of those stories about him, that he just taught my aunt casually one time he was going to play guitar, he was going to learn how to play guitar, and he comes back 6 months later, a seasoned classical guitarist. I mean, he just incredible gifts like that, But the damage that was done for him from the whole system of the industrial school, the fact that we're in prison without trial, put into this incredible hell, he never got over it. And the final straw, of course, was being held down with electric shock treatment. But when he got past all of that, he became a very solitary figure and just became a long-distance truck driver because he didn't want to deal with people. But that had its own penalties too, because he always wanted to have a relationship with a woman, and in the end he couldn't have because he didn't know how to. He would freeze at the thought of, chatting up a woman. And even if he went to the next level, he was always very uncomfortable with his clothes off anyhow. And so there was all these things playing against him. He couldn't get to the next level. And eventually depression became his constant companion, And it led to his early death at 47 years of age of pancreatic cancer. And I wish we could be talking about something happier, but these are the facts. But even when he went to the redress board, giving them a doctor's letter saying that he will not be coming out of this hospital, essentially not alive anyhow, they still wouldn't believe it. And they still prodded and probed for him to come on his own. And I went with him. And in the morning we were supposed to leave. He became incontinent, and I had to go over to the redress board by myself to get them to come over. And only because of the glare of the media and media spotlight, it forced their hand, and they came home that evening to sit at his bedside to take that testimony with me in tow. When we were there, he turned we didn't get the offer yet, but 2 weeks later, they made him wait another 2 weeks. It couldn't have been that complicated, but before they gave him his offer, when he was given
the compensation he was offered,
he turned it down, and he told me to appeal it on his behalf, which I did, and he had only 2 more weeks to live anyhow. Essentially, in or about them.
They tried to renege on that as well.
This is interesting. Like next when they came out from their. It's hard to even put a name on these people, these nameless people. I mean, if you're doing a job, however bad it is, if something wrong you're doing, you can't just argument the fact that why only work here, right? But I was then told that, oh no, well, it's like a insurance claim, it dies with him, and I was being told this by my own solicitor. And I was told, I told my own sister, would you please come back to these people and tell them that I'd be tying my hands to the doll in tempered steel handcuffs, and I'd be inviting the world's media to come along as well. And 2 weeks later, I got his cheque.
So you've both been compensated now by the redress board, is that correct?
I had to appeal the one little piece I left out there. I had to appeal on my brother's behalf. They made me go through a whole legal theatrics, which I prepared myself to try and get that conversation before they eventually did offer this conversation, and it was meant for like Michael denied it or turned it down, because for my conversation was 130,000, and I'm at the higher end simply because I became more of a threat to these people. And the Redress Act itself is just a minor point here, but it's not really a minor point. The Redress Act is actually unconstitutional. In 44.2 of the Constitution, it says you cannot indemnify any religion. And that means not just regards litigation. You can't give them bequeathed lands and all of that, or funds of any kind. And suddenly we have this Redress Act drawn up to protect them. And it gets, obviously this is fed into every part of society, because these, how do they end up getting the schools and the land was bequeathed to them by the government themselves? So this whole idea that it's like two blackmailers in each other's pocket, really, because the government has to play ball with the villages, because they've got all the schools and the universities and the hospitals. They can close them down in the morning if they want to. So they're caught in the bind. It's not necessarily essentially one or two people trying to say no to something, but what it is that nobody can say yes to anything because of the blackmailing hold they have on each other.
Very quickly, tell us about this march tomorrow. You didn't join any other groups. You're independent.
Independent, and what the people want on that day, however the seat to move forward, is fine by me. But this march is not just for victims of institutional abuse. In the preparation of this, it wasn't just me doing this. Honora Brennan, who's suffering from cancer, by the way, almost 60 years old, fighting for her very life. This gave her a new lease of life. So hopefully with the input that this is bringing, will actually give her some kind of closure and galvanise her back to good health. But it was all her networking, pushing
Okay.
it out there, to get it where it is. And we're marching from the Dáil, at the Pro Cathedral in St Mary's
In Dublin.
In Dublin, St Mary's Pro Cathedral. We're marching the Dáil 11:30 a.m. on Wednesday. But it's also to bring it up to the modern day, and this is very important. I hope we have enough time for this. But we have to make sure that we have serious sentences for people who commit the act of pedophilia or rape or anything against a child, never mind an adult too. But because if I have 2 drinks and hop in a car, there's a good chance I go to prison. But yet if you rape a child, you get a suspended sentence. This has to be seriously addressed. And there's no point in somebody putting these guys on registers for 2 years. They should be on a lifetime register, because and to call them pedophiles is a get-out clause. These people have done something seriously wrong. The fact that in the manner they do it, they know it's wrong. They should be on a permanent register forevermore after the sentences.
Okay. So 11:30 tomorrow morning from the Pro Cathedral in Dublin, an assembly of survivors and those in sympathy with the survivors, I would assume.
Exactly.
As well, to march to Dublin.
And bring it into the modern era as well. Okay. And also finally just trying to introduce a curriculum for children so they will know what abuse is at a very young age.
Okay, Barry, thank you very much.
Thank you for coming on this morning,
Yours is a
sharing
great
your story.
Thank you for sharing it with us. Thank you. Stay tuned. We'll be back with more in just a minute.